Nobody's coming to save you. There's no perfect moment arriving where motivation magically appears and stays forever. No app, no hack, no secret technique's going to make discipline feel effortless. The brutal truth that changed my entire life. You're going to have to force yourself. Today I want to talk to you about the single factor that separates people who achieve their dreams from people who just dream about them. Consistency, not talent, not luck, not connections, not motivation. The raw willingness to show up when every cell in your body screams to stop. Motivation is a beautiful liar. Consistency is the ugly truth. I used to be a professional starter. I'd begin projects with fire in my belly, work like a machine for a few days, maybe a week, then the flame would die. I'd stop, wait for inspiration to return, and wonder why my life wasn't changing despite all my efforts. It took me years of failure to understand what I was doing wrong. I was treating consistency like a weather pattern, something that happened to me instead of something I created through sheer will. Here's what finally cracked the code after studying successful people across every field imaginable. They don't feel like doing it either. Read that again. They experience the same resistance, the same exhaustion, the same voice whispering, do it tomorrow. The only difference, they've learned to override that voice. To force themselves forward when force is the only fuel left in the tank. Most people believe high achievers possess some supernatural motivation reservoir, some eternal fire that never dims. That's a comforting fantasy. The truth is messier and more empowering. Let me show you why forcing yourself isn't cruelty. It's the greatest act of self-love you'll ever perform. Let me paint a picture you probably know too well. You decide to change something, get fit, build a business, learn a new skill, write that book, finally become the person you've always imagined. Day one, you're on fire. Motivation is overflowing. You can see the finish line glowing in the distance. This time will be different. Day three, still going strong, a little harder to start, but you push through. You're proud of yourself. Day 7, the honeymoon is ending. The work feels like actual work now. The excitement has faded to something duller. Day 14, you skip once, just once. You're exhausted. So you deserve a break, right? One day won't matter. Day 21, you've skipped more days than you've shown up. The streak is broken. The habit is gasping for air. The dream is fading like morning fog. Day 30, you've quietly quit. Again. And you're already rehearsing the same story you've told yourself 100 times before. I'll restart when I'm ready, when life calms down, when I feel more motivated. Sound familiar? Some of you have lived this exact cycle dozens of times, maybe hundreds. Different goals, identical patterns. Start strong, fade fast, quit quietly, beat yourself up, eventually try again. Rinse and repeat until you start wondering if you're fundamentally broken. I know how this feels because I've been trapped in this hamster wheel more times than I care to admit. That maddening frustration of knowing exactly what you should do, genuinely wanting to do it, and still not doing it consistently. It makes you question everything about yourself. Here's the problem nobody talks about openly. You're waiting for consistency to feel good. You're waiting for the resistance to magically dissolve. You're waiting to want it so badly that forcing becomes unnecessary. That day never arrives ever. Let me tell you what this pattern of inconsistency actually costs you over a lifetime. First, it destroys your self-trust. Every time you quit, every broken promise to yourself, you're depositing evidence that your word means nothing. You said you'd do something and you didn't. That erodes self-respect in ways that contaminate everything else in your life. How can you trust yourself with big decisions when you can't trust yourself to show up for small ones? Second, it robs you of compound growth. This is the hidden devastation. Consistency isn't about any single day, it's about accumulation over time. Small efforts stacked daily create extraordinary results. But when you're inconsistent, you keep resetting to zero. You never build momentum. You never reach that magical tipping point where results start accelerating and effort starts decreasing. Think about it like climbing a mountain. Every time you quit, you slide back to base camp. You spend your entire life hiking the same initial stretch over and over, never reaching the view at the top. Third, it murders your potential. And this is the one that should keep you awake at night. Somewhere inside you lives a version of yourself that kept going. That didn't quit at day 14. That pushed through the resistance for months, then years, then decades. That person achieved things you can't even imagine sitting where you are right now. Every time you quit, that person dies a little. That potential shrinks. That future self gets further away. Fourth, it creates a toxic identity. After enough failed attempts, you start building a story about who you are. I can never stick with anything. I'm just not built for consistency. And that story becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You quit before you start because you already know how it ends. I've watched brilliant people, genuinely talented individuals, waste their gifts because they couldn't show up consistently. Meanwhile, less talented people with relentless consistency sailed right past them. It happens constantly, every single day. Talent without consistency is just unfulfilled potential. A beautiful engine with no fuel. Now I want to challenge a belief you've probably held your entire life. You've been told that if you find your true passion, motivation will carry you. That if you want something badly enough, consistency will feel natural. That successful people have cracked some code that makes discipline effortless. This is one of the most dangerous lies in personal development. Here's what I've learned from decades of studying high performers across every field. Motivation doesn't create consistency. Consistency creates motivation. You've had it completely backwards. Let that sink in for a moment. When do you actually feel most motivated? Usually after you've been doing something consistently for a while. The momentum builds. Small results start appearing. Confidence grows. And suddenly you feel that surge of motivation everyone's chasing. But where did that motivation come from? It came from the consistency you forced before you felt anything. The motivation was a reward, not a prerequisite. This is the shift that changes everything. Stop waiting to feel like it. Start forcing yourself until the feeling follows. The action comes first. The emotion comes second. Let me give you an example that illustrates this perfectly. I worked with a woman who wanted to write a book. She'd been working on it for 3 years, which really meant she wrote whenever inspiration struck. Maybe a few times a month, usually in short bursts that led nowhere. I told her something she genuinely didn't want to hear. Write every single day, no exceptions, no excuses. 500 words minimum. I don't care if they're garbage. I don't care if you delete them all tomorrow. Right. She resisted immediately. But what about quality? What about waiting for the muse? What about writing when I actually have something meaningful to say? I said, inspiration is a reward for showing up, not a prerequisite for starting. She committed reluctantly, forced herself daily for the first month, hated it sometimes, wrote pages she knew were terrible, questioned the whole approach constantly. But she showed up every single day. By month 2, something subtle shifted. The writing came slightly easier. Ideas started arriving more readily. By month 3, she was hitting her stride. The resistance was still there, but it had weakened. She'd started to expect it and push through anyway. By month 6, she'd finished her book. 3 years of waiting for inspiration had produced scattered notes and frustration. 6 months of forcing produced a completed manuscript that got published. The muse showed up, but only after she proved she was serious. Here's the mindset shift you need to internalize. You're not a person who does things when you feel like it. You're a person who does things whether you feel like it or not. That identity transformation is worth more than any technique or hack. Some of you might be thinking, but Allan, forcing myself constantly sounds exhausting. Shouldn't I be kinder to myself? Isn't self-compassion important? Let me address that directly because it's crucial. What's truly unkind is letting yourself quit on your dreams. What's truly exhausting is living with the weight of unrealized potential. What's truly cruel is being gentle with your present comfort at the expense of your future self. But here's the nuance that matters. There's a difference between forcing yourself self-respect and forcing yourself from self-hatred. One builds you up, the other burns you out. Healthy discipline sounds like, this is hard, but I'm showing up because I respect my goals and I respect myself. Toxic discipline sounds like, I'm worthless if I don't do this perfectly. I hate myself for struggling. Force yourself from love, not from loathing. The consistency should serve you, not punish you. You're building something, not paying penance. The goal isn't to become a machine with no feelings. The goal is to stop letting feelings run the machine. Before I give you the practical tools, let me explain why consistency is so difficult. Because understanding the enemy helps you defeat it. Your brain didn't evolve for long-term goals, it evolved for immediate survival. And that creates a fundamental conflict between what you want and what your brain wants. Your brain wants comfort, safety, conservation of energy. It views any new habit as a potential threat, an unnecessary expenditure of resources. So it generates resistance.
Fatigue, doubt, excuses.
Anything to maintain the status quo. This isn't weakness. This is biology. When you understand this, you stop taking the resistance personally. It's not evidence that you're broken or lazy. It's evidence that you're human with a human brain doing what human brains do. The prefrontal cortex, the rational planning part of your brain, wants to write the book, build the business, get fit. But the limbic system, the emotional survival focused part, wants to conserve energy and avoid discomfort. Every morning when you face your consistent task, you're essentially having a negotiation between these two parts of your brain. And the limbic system is an incredibly skilled negotiator. It's been winning arguments for millions of years. Here's what makes it worse. Your brain is also wired to prioritize immediate rewards over delayed rewards. This is called temporal discounting. A cookie right now feels more valuable than 6 pack abs in 6 months. Sleeping in this morning feels more valuable than the business you're building. This isn't a character flaw. It's how every human brain operates. And then there's the identity issue. If you've repeatedly failed at consistency, your brain has built a story about who you are. I'm not a consistent person. Every time you try again, that story plays in the background, quietly sabotaging your efforts. You're not just fighting resistance, you're fighting your own self-concept. Finally, many people struggle with consistency because of fear. Not fear of failure, fear of success. What happens if you actually become consistent? What happens if you achieve your goals? Your whole identity might need to change. Your relationships might shift. People might expect more from you. Sometimes we sabotage ourselves to stay safe in familiar failure rather than risk the unknown territory of success. Understanding all of this isn't an excuse. It's equipment. When you know what you're fighting, you can fight smarter. All right, let's get into the tools that actually work, because understanding the psychology is important, but implementation is everything. First, make the decision once. This is foundational. Most people exhaust themselves by deciding every single day whether to show up. That's a recipe for failure. You're essentially negotiating with yourself every morning, and your lazier self is a masterful negotiator with millions of years of evolutionary practice. Instead, make the decision once. I do this daily, period. Not negotiable, not up for discussion. When the decision is already made, you don't have to fight the battle each morning. The battle was won when you committed. Now you just execute. I decided years ago that I exercise every day when I feel like it, not when I have time every day. So when I wake up tired and resistant, I don't debate. The decision was made months ago. I just execute the decision, remove the option of not doing it, and you remove the exhausting daily negotiation. Second, start so small it's embarrassing. One of the biggest consistency killers, ambition. You commit to an hour of work, then you skip it because an hour feels overwhelming when you're tired. Then you feel guilty, then you skip again to avoid the guilt, then you quit. Instead, commit to something so small you literally cannot fail. 5 minutes, 1 paragraph, 10 push-ups, 1 page of reading, something you can do even on your absolute worst day. I know this feels pointless. Your ambitious brain says 5 minutes won't make a difference. That's a lie. The goal isn't the small action. The goal is maintaining the streak, building the identity of someone who shows up daily. You can always do more once you start, and you usually will, but the starting is what matters. The starting is everything. The habit of showing up is more important than the size of the effort. Third, track visibly. Get a physical calendar. Put it somewhere you'll see it constantly. Mark a red X every single day you show up. Watch the chain grow. This sounds almost stupidly simple. That's why most people dismiss it. But there's something psychologically powerful about a visual streak. You don't want to break it. The chain itself becomes motivating. Breaking the chain starts to feel like losing something valuable. I've used this technique for years. That visual accountability creates a force that willpower alone cannot match. Fourth, create forcing functions. A forcing function is an external constraint that makes the right choice easier and the wrong choice harder. You're not relying on willpower, you're redesigning your environment. Want to check your phone less? Leave it in another room. Want to write every morning? Disconnect your internet until noon. Want to work out? Sleep in your gym clothes. Want to eat healthier? Don't keep junk food in your house. Make the consistent choice the path of least resistance. Make the inconsistent choice require extra effort. Your environment shapes your behavior more than your intentions do. Design it wisely. Fifth, attach consistency to identity. Stop saying, I'm trying to be more consistent. Start saying, I'm a consistent person. Stop saying, I'm working on exercising daily. Start saying, I'm someone who exercises daily. This might seem like mere word games. It's not. Language shapes perception and perception shapes behavior. When consistency is part of your core identity, breaking it feels like betraying yourself. That's infinitely more powerful than breaking a goal or missing a target. You don't just want to be consistent. You want to be the type of person who is consistent. There's a profound difference. Sixth, expect resistance and plan for it. You're going to have days when every fiber of your being wants to quit, when the excuses feel completely legitimate, when the resistance is overwhelming. That's not a sign something's wrong. That's the test. That's the moment that separates successful people from everyone else. Know it's coming. Plan for it. Write down in advance. When I feel like skipping, I will dog it about filling that blank before the moment arrives. For me, when resistance hits, I tell myself, just start. Not complete the whole thing, just start. Do the first 5 minutes. And starting almost always leads to finishing. Seventh, recover quickly from breaks. Here's the truth. You're going to fail sometimes. You're going to miss days. You're going to break streaks. You're human. The difference between people who become consistent and people who don't isn't that the consistent ones never fail. It's that they recover faster. They don't let one missed day become two. They don't let one slip become a slide back to zero. Miss a day, start again immediately. No drama, no shame spiral, no waiting until Monday or next month. Just start the next streak right now. The goal isn't perfect consistency, it's resilient consistency. Here's what not to do. Don't compare your consistency to others. Your battle is uniquely yours. Someone else might find easy what you find hard. That comparison is useless and destructive. Your only competition is yesterday's version of you. Also, don't use consistency as self-punishment. If you're forcing yourself from hatred, if every session feels like paying penance for being worthless, you're doing it wrong. That path leads to burnout, not transformation. Force yourself from self-respect, from a desire to become who you're capable of being, from love for your future self. That's sustainable. That's powerful. Now I need to address something important, because there's a shadow side to force yourself that can cause real damage if you're not careful. There's a difference between healthy discipline and destructive self-abuse. And the line between them isn't always obvious. Healthy discipline says, I'm tired, but I'm showing up because this matters to me and I'm building something important. Destructive discipline says, I'm exhausted, sick and breaking down, but I must keep going or I'm worthless. Healthy discipline includes rest. It includes recovery. It recognizes that you're a human being, not a productivity machine. Here's how to know the difference. Resistance that you should push through. Oh, I don't feel like it. I'm tired. Oh, I'd rather watch Netflix. It's raining. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. This is normal resistance. Push through it. Resistance that's warning you, persistent exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. Feeling dead inside about something you used to care about. Physical symptoms, constant illness, injury, breakdown. Dreading the activity with genuine fear or despair. Total loss of motivation lasting weeks, not days. When you're forcing yourself from empty, you're not building consistency. You're building a breakdown. Sometimes the most disciplined thing you can do is rest. Sometimes forcing yourself through genuine burnout isn't strength, it's stupidity. The goal is sustainable consistency over years and decades. Not maximum output for 3 months followed by complete collapse. Check in with yourself honestly. Are you pushing through normal resistance or are you ignoring genuine warning signs? Most people use this nuance as an excuse to quit at the first sign of discomfort. Don't do that. But also don't ignore your body and mind when they're genuinely telling you something is wrong. There's something I haven't mentioned yet, something that goes beyond tactics and psychology, something that matters more than any technique. When you become truly consistent, when you master the ability to show up regardless of how you feel, you don't just change your habits, you change your relationship with yourself. Most people experience themselves as victims of their own impulses. Feelings happen to them, motivation comes and goes, and they're just passengers along for the ride. They want to be consistent, but they can't help being inconsistent. When you force yourself through resistance repeatedly, something profound shifts. You start experiencing yourself as the author of your actions, not the victim of your moods. You realize that feelings are information, not commands, that you can feel unmotivated and act anyway. This is freedom, real freedom. Not the freedom to do whatever you feel like. That's actually slavery to impulse. But the freedom to do what you choose regardless of what you feel like. And this inner authority spills over into everything. When you know you can force yourself to show up daily for your goals, you start trusting yourself in other areas. You make bigger commitments because you know you'll keep them. You take on harder challenges because you know you won't quit. Consistency isn't just about achieving goals. It's about becoming someone you can rely on, someone you respect, someone whose word, especially to yourself, actually means something. I've seen this transformation happen hundreds of times. Someone starts forcing themselves to show up. At first, it's just about the specific goal. Write the book, build the business, get fit. But then something larger shifts. Their whole self-concept changes. They carry themselves differently. They speak with more conviction. They trust themselves in ways they never did before. That transformation is worth more than any specific achievement. It's the foundation for every achievement that follows. So here we are. At the decision point that separates who you are from who you could become, you can keep waiting. Keep hoping motivation magically appears and stays this time. Keep starting and stopping and starting again. Keep telling yourself next time will be different while changing nothing about your approach. You already know where that leads. More of the same, more unrealized potential, more quiet regret, more becoming a person you don't want to be, or you can decide right now that you're done waiting, done hoping, done negotiating with yourself every morning, done treating consistency like a feeling instead of a choice. You can become someone who forces themselves, someone who shows up when they don't feel like it, someone who does the work whether motivation showed up or not. It won't feel good at first. That's exactly the point. If it felt good, everyone would do it. The discomfort is the filter that separates the achievers from the dreamers. But here's what waits on the other side: momentum that builds on itself. Results that finally appear and accelerate. The deep satisfaction of keeping promises to yourself. The pride of becoming someone who does what they say they'll do. The compound growth that only comes from sustained effort over time. And eventually, I promise you this, the forcing becomes easier. The resistance weakens. What once required iron will become simple habit. What once felt like pushing a boulder uphill becomes walking a familiar path. But you have to force yourself there first. There's no shortcut, no hack, no way around the uncomfortable part. So here's my challenge to you. Pick one thing. Just one thing you've been inconsistent with, something that matters to you, something you've started and stopped too many times to count, and commit, not to motivation, not to feeling like it, to showing up. Every single day for the next 30 days. Make it so small you can't fail. Track it visibly. Plan for the resistance in advance. And when that resistance comes, and it will come probably tomorrow, force yourself anyway. Because nobody's coming to save you. No perfect moment is arriving where this becomes easy. No amount of wanting will ever replace the doing. There's only you, your choices, your willingness to force yourself forward when everything inside you wants to stop. That's it. That's the whole secret everyone's looking for. It's not complicated. It's just hard. Force yourself to be consistent, become someone you can trust, and watch your entire life transform.